Now look, not only is being able to slide a bike loads of fun, but it's also a great skill that transfers to other riding. If you can get the back end out without shitting yourself, then probably on the road you're going to be a safer rider. And what better place to learn that skill than here at Dirtcraft in the UK? It's a flat track school. They use Royal Enfields, and basically you spend 4 solid hours going round and round this loop, developing little bits of skills that make you more comfortable with the bike moving around underneath you. So in this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the bike and then 6 of the key things that I took away from this experience. Number 1 is to come to a school like this. Don't try and develop a skill like this or any other sort of fancy tricks on the road. Clearly you're on the edge of your abilities for a lot of it, and so that's when things can start to go wrong. But here it's a perfect setup for learning to slide. Not only do they coach you through it and sort of build you up gradually, but also the track's perfect for it. It's nice and simple, quite small, so not too fast, and they've been maintaining the surface all day, so keeping it wet. It's a super hot day, so it will get very dry and dusty quickly, and that gets quite slippy. But yeah, just keeping it nice and damp means it's perfect for beginners. Also, we've got the ideal bike for it. Now, you may not think it looking at this bike, but it is in fact a Royal Enfield Himalayan. Plenty of modifications to make it fit for the school. So they fitted a flat track rear end and then a very thin sort of bit of foam for a seat, stripped off all the electronics and the lights and stuff. But the key things are the flat track specific wheels, so 19 inches front and rear, and they've got these Metis flat track specific tires, so they're perfect for this surface and perfect for that style of riding. And then also they've removed the rear brake. I think the temptation when the bike sort of feels like it's carrying a bit too much speed into the corner would be to grab a bit of front brake, but you've got the bike banked over, and so as soon as you do that, the front's going to wash out. So although it might seem sketchy at first, to have no front brake is pretty much ideal for beginners. The other thing with the Himalayan is, yeah, it's only 24 horsepower, so it might not sound like loads for sliding it around, but actually on a off-road surface like this, it's pretty much on point. I mean, on tarmac, you do very well to get it to spin up, but on this surface, it's got enough there in first gear to allow you to have a little bit of fun and sort of find the edges of your comfort. But at the same time, it's not going to absolutely spit you off if you give it a fistful of throttle. Number 3 is they give you one of these lovely metal shoes. There you go. And the idea is that you hang it off the inside, and that gives you a bit of a tripod with which to keep the bike up. So you are going to experience the rear and the front sliding on a day like this when you hit the sort of more slippery surfaces. And the idea is to keep this planted on the ground so that you can catch the bike. And if you just dangle it, you're not going to be ready for it. But if you keep it pressed in and firm, then when the bike does start to move away, you can just lift it up. Definitely takes a little bit of getting used to. It's a really unusual riding style, but I think if you want to get comfortable with the bike sliding, then it's like an extra safety net, a little safety feature. Effectively like a knee slider if you were riding on the track, but just on the end of your foot. And it looks kind of medieval, which is cool. Number 4 would be reading the surface. So there are 3 main things to look out for when you're riding on a day like this. Number 1 would be the sort of shiny, dark brown patches. And that's where it's really, really wet and the water's sitting on the surface. And that actually makes it very, very slippy. I found that earlier coming out of one of these corners, the whole bike moving away. And it was because I went over one of those patches with the bike fairly banked over. At the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got the really dry, powdery stuff. And again, that's going to be super, super slippery. So you've got to be picking your line, scanning the surfaces, and making sure that your inputs into the bike are appropriate to what's coming up. The sweet spot is in between the two. It's deep brown, but it's not got that glossiness that you get with the really wet patches. And this is the damp stuff that offers plenty of grip and allows you to do a little bit more with the bike. Now, the next 2 are a little bit counterintuitive. I mean, number 1 is the body position. So if you're used to riding on the road, the idea is that you minimize the lean angle of the bike by hanging off as much as you can. And so you're going to have this inside elbow bent like that, and then your outside arm outstretched. Similar to if you were riding an adventure bike on gravel, or if you're riding a dirt bike on loose surfaces, you more so actually tilt the bike underneath you and your body remains fairly upright. It feels pretty unnatural if you're not used to doing it very often, but after you've done a few laps, you start to get the feel of it, and it really does give you a stable platform. You're nice and upright, you're pushing the bike down, and then like I say, you've got that inside leg just to catch the bike if you need it to. Now, of course, the medieval metal boot on the floor is pretty specific to flat tracking, but I think getting used to that riding position where you tilt the bike beneath you is super transferable, and if you're in less grippy circumstances, then it definitely helps to be able to ride like that. Even on a road bike, I'm thinking like if you're doing a low speed maneuver on a gravelly car park, you know, you want to be tilting the bike beneath you so that your weight remains above the contact patch rather than trying to sort of angle yourself and the bike. Number 6 would be the line. Again, like I say, this is a little bit counterintuitive, but when you're riding on the road, you're always kind of taught to go wide and then to the inside of the corner and then out wide again, and that gives you the sort of like least tight path through the corner, which allows you to carry a bit more speed and reduce lean angle. A lot of us at the beginning today were riding in that style, and the problem with that is that when you get on the gas sort of early to mid corner, it starts to push the bike wide and it starts to slide a bit more, and then you start wandering towards the outside of the track and you don't really have the space. Now, we're being taught today by Gary Birtwistle, who is a very successful flat track racer, and he was telling us about the ideal path through the corner, and it's to go almost in a V shape. So you kind of brake in and sliding the bike into the corner, and then you make a fairly sharp turn to straighten the bike up, and then that allows you to get on the gas, look for that straightish line out of the corner, and that's going to help you to get as much speed as possible. It also means you're not, you know, getting on the gas too early and pushing yourself wide and then having to roll off again once you're coming up towards the straight. I've massively enjoyed this experience today, and I've learned a lot about flat track riding, but I think the most valuable thing, if you're not going to go into flat tracking as a hobby, is just being able to spend a lot of time on a simple circuit, repeatedly doing the same thing and experiencing the bike sliding around beneath you, both the front end and also that back coming around when you get on the gas. And the more comfortable you get with it, the less you start to react to it, and you just keep it steady on the throttle, don't chop off it, and the bike will just kind of find its way. And so I thoroughly recommend it. Obviously, these tips are little tasters of what you're gonna learn, but you can't beat just getting down here and doing a bunch of laps and getting to know how the bike feels. So thoroughly recommend it. Links in the description. Let me know if you've ever tried flat tracking, both on purpose or inadvertently, if you've managed to slide your bike out on the road. Let me know down in the comments. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.